Ellis B. Feaster's Radio Aircheck and Classic TV channel.
Voice of New England, WBZ AM and FM. Group W Westinghouse Broadcasting in Boston.
It's 35 degrees in Boston. Tonight's low will be in the 20s. I'm Stuart reporting the 11 o'clock WBZ News. Superintendent of Schools William Orenberger has closed the Martin Luther King School in Roxbury indefinitely. He said he was acting at the request of the King-Timothy Coalition, a neighborhood organization, and the Boston Teachers Union. Orenberger said it was in the best interests of restoring a workable and healthy educational situation at the school. In New York City, councilmen and labor leaders have entered the strike of public school teachers there, and there's a strong possibility that the state legislature may be called on to intervene in the closing of the city's schools. Negro students at the University of Massachusetts at Amherst have withdrawn their ultimatum that campus police be disarmed by Friday, but they say they will not compromise on demands that the guns be removed eventually. Tomorrow, the students and the administration will discuss 21 demands made by the black students after an alleged beating on the campus last week. The NAACP has created a full-scale legal department, and WBZ newsman Bill Slater says the Boston branch legal department will deal with racial discrimination exclusively.
Attorney Henry F. Owens III, now an assistant district attorney for Middlesex County, will head the new department. He says he intends to make use of established attorneys in the area and of third-year law students. Owens, who is a 1967 graduate of Suffolk Law School, says the department will deal only with cases of alleged racial discrimination. And he says the department will be at the disposal of other civil rights organizations.
This committee is not exclusively NAACP. There have been letters sent out to various black organizations in the Boston area stating that maybe we can use this legal committee as a unifying factor, in fact, to unite all the black organizations, that if, in fact, they have a legal problem which falls within the domain of our committee, that we'll be more than glad to help them with this problem, and maybe we can even, our services are available to any organization which, in fact, has a problem along these lines.
The new department is the first full-time legal department to be organized by a civil rights group in the Boston area. Bill Slater, WBZ News.
Subway, trolley, and bus rides in the Boston area will cost 5 to 10 cents more starting next year. The MBTA has voted to hike transit fares to control its spiraling deficit. But a group of young people, members of Students for a Democratic Society, would not let the MBTA's board of directors announce the rise in fares without a struggle. Their shouts drowned out the vote of approval.
Stop the fare hike, tax the rich! 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 Stop the fare hike.
And thus it continued. SDS spokesman Emily Perkins explained what the cries were all about.
I feel that the deficit should be met by taxes on profits of very large corporations, and by ending the debt which is paid to the banks, which the banks are making a great deal of profit from, not from a fare hike. It should come from the rich and not from the people.
Emily Perkins speaking for Boston students who are protesting the MBTA's fare increase. A 5-man court-martial at Fort Devens has found Private First Class Raymond Kroll guilty of being absent without leave. He was sentenced to 3 months at hard labor. He had sought sanctuary at Marsh Chapel of Boston University before being taken into custody. The Massachusetts Bay United Fund Drive has just ended with a victory dinner this evening, and the Fund's radio television chairman, Jeff Stanwood, thanks the public who made it possible.
The campaign has gone over the top, raising the largest amount of money in the Fund's history. The total is $14,002,034, or 100.001% of our $14 million goal. On behalf of all those who will benefit most from the 340 United Fund agencies during the coming year, General Chairman Ephraim Catlin and I join in thanking every one of you in our community for your generous support. Thanks a million, or perhaps I should say, thanks 14 million.
That was the Massachusetts Bay United Fund radio television chairman, Jeff Stanwood. In sports, Derek Sanderson's unassisted goal gave the Boston Bruins a come-from-behind 1-1 tie with the Toronto Maple Leafs tonight in Toronto. Former heavyweight champion Rocky Marciano said today the death of his trainer, Charlie Goldman, came as a sad blow. Marciano, who spent his youth in Brockton, will be unable to attend Goldman's funeral tomorrow because of a commitment to participate in a testimonial for Ezard Charles in Chicago. And Roy Campanella and Dr. Tenley Albright, two internationally famed athletes who know what it is to battle against crippling physical ailments, were among a host of sports personalities honored at the opening event of the Easter Seal Society's 4-day national convention in Boston. The weather word for Boston and vicinity for the rest of the night: partly cloudy, low temperatures in the low 30s downtown, the 20s in the suburbs, northwest winds 25 to 30 miles an hour. Tomorrow fair with high temperatures in the low 40s. Northwest winds 20 to 30 miles an hour and gusty. Present temperature 35 degrees. The top story of the hour: School Superintendent William Orenberger has ordered the Martin Luther King School closed indefinitely. He said he was acting at the request of the King-Timothy Coalition and the Boston Teachers Union. And that's the 11 o'clock WBZ report with portions recorded. I'm Streeter Stewart. We now present The People Speak, a sampling of audience response to our station's editorials. And now here's our general manager, Mr. Jim Lightfoot.
We continue to hear from people in response to our editorials about citizens' involvement in the urban crisis. One such letter suggested a promising idea for student involvement in the area of housing, a critical problem for the city, landlords, and students themselves. The letter came from Mrs. Cricket Smith, a resident of Dorchester and a graduate student in landscape architecture at the University of Massachusetts. She's a member of Student Housing Group, which is just getting organized in the Boston area. And here's how she explains its role and its purpose.
Student Housing Group is a nonprofit association of graduate students and professionals in the field of environmental studies. Our basic plan is to provide low-cost housing to interested students in return for simple maintenance and renovation. We have several goals for ourselves and the community. The first, though, is to offer responsible students safe, convenient, low-cost housing near urban renewal sites and in other older areas of the city which are showing signs of physical decay. Students agree to do necessary minor repairs on their own apartments and other work around the buildings, subject to agreement with the property owners. For this work, students get a cut in the normal rents or an allowance for materials. Students who participate in this plan can avoid the usual overpriced student ghettos and at the same time make a contribution to the city's welfare. Landlords benefit by having their property maintained or even professionally improved without any labor cost.
If you're a student or a landlord and you're interested in this plan, drop a letter to our editorial department. We'll forward it on to Mrs. Smith. And, of course, we'd welcome a letter from you on any of our other editorial topics, too.
You've heard WBZ General Manager Jim Lightfoot with The People Speak, a sampling of audience response to our station's editorials.
Two, 5, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.